had asked that Attorney Namita Brown, and I believe she's out here in the audience, as a follow-up to our December 21st closed session, we had Ms. Namita Brown come in, attorney from Fagan, Friedman, and Full Frost, who works with our district and is well known throughout the state. And we had asked for her to come into a closed session, and this is around a consideration of two cure and correct demands that we have received regarding potential Brown Act violations. So Ms. Brown came on December 21st to our closed session and talked to the board about some of the anticipated litigation or the legal matters that might occur. And we asked Ms. Brown to return tonight, really to just provide the public with a general overview and background information on the Brown Act and the cure and correct process, because it frequently is something that people are unaware of. So Ms. Brown is here. This is an information item only, so it's not anything we take action on. It's simply information. Did I miss a public comment? Okay. I would guess it's Alicia Minion who's up here. My apologies, Ms. Brown. Okay. Alicia Minion would like to comment, and I'm sorry I missed you, but
that's okay.
We're figuring it out.
It won't take long. The success of every organization is dependent upon the tone at the top. The top includes members of the board, the superintendent, the CFO, director of HR, general counsel, among other key management. The success of an organization can be realized by practicing the highest standards of good faith, the highest standards of fiduciary duty, the highest standards of ethics and morals. Ultimately, these standards are critical to achieving the best educational experience for our students. I'm here today to commend the board for taking corrective action to address the alleged Brown Act violations brought to you by Wendy Lack and myself. This displays a positive shift in the tone at the top, and I hope the board and key management will continue this trend of addressing public concerns. This ultimately builds community, trust, and boosts morale, which are necessary for the successful education of students. I want to thank you and Happy New Year.
Thank you, Ms. Minion. Is that the only public comment? I didn't forget somebody else. Okay. Thank you. Ms. Brown will now do her Brown Act and cure and correct overview for public information.
Ms. Hanson, may I ask,
yes.
This presentation, is this available on the website? Is this available to the public at this point?
I have some hard copies that I have for the board as well as members of the public.
So we should be able to scan that and post it on the district website.
Can we get it in soft copy as well so that it can be posted on the...
You can have that as a hard, he has a copy of it.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
So, good evening, and part of my job today is to talk about the Brown Act, specifically the cure and correct process under the Brown Act. But before we get into the cure and correct, there are a couple of things which are terms of art that I want to go over briefly. I don't anticipate this presentation taking a long time, but my goal is to give you an overview of what happens when you get a cure and correct notice and what the board's obligations are. Okay? So, as most people here know, and this is purely for the benefit of the public, we are a legislative body that falls under the purview of the Brown Act. And basically, the intent of the Brown Act is that all meetings, all open meetings, are open to the public except for authorized closed session. Everything that you do as a body is open to the public. The law lays out very specific exceptions that allows you to go into closed session, whether it be for anticipated litigation, whether it be for a lawsuit that you're deciding upon, whether it's for a piece of property you're trying to buy because you don't want the other party that you're buying from to know your strategy of bottom line price. So these are very strategic, small exceptions that are carved into the law whereby a government board or any legislative body can go into closed session to basically accomplish the district's purpose. But for general operational reasons, anything and everything that you do is subject to open session. And the other piece is not only are you doing your job in public with transparency, but forth as part of your sunshining when you're going into negotiations with your unions. I mean, the whole idea is to keep the public in the loop, to allow for their comments, to allow for their input, and that's the whole purpose of the Brown Act and the Open Meetings Law. Now, what is a meeting? A meeting is one of those terms of art. So when you have a majority of the board members present at the same time, at the same place, you get to have a meeting. But the idea is just being present doesn't get you to that meeting. You have to be there to hear, discuss, or deliberate. So the so if you're a 5-member board, you run, 3 of you run into each other at the egg aisle on Safeway because there is a uncanny, craving for quiche, I don't know. And you're all there selecting eggs. Is that a board meeting? Probably not, because you're not there to hear, discuss, or deliberate. Now, can that turn into a meeting? Yes, if you start talking about things that should be agendized and placed on an agenda and discussed in a public forum. So just by virtue of being present doesn't get you to a meeting, but what happens at the meeting can get you to a place of having a meeting without a proper agenda. I'll talk about that little variation about what constitutes a meeting in a minute, but the idea is that if you are a majority of you present at a place and you are doing the board's business, the public's business, away from the public without an agenda, you get to a place where you might be violating the Brown Act. The other piece is serial meetings, which is a really critical thing. So it is where one board member writes another board member and says, hey, tomorrow we're going to talk about, this is after this board meeting, so we're talking about curriculum or we're talking about laptops. So we're going to talk about the math quiz. And the first board member who sends the email out doesn't realize that the second board member to whom the email was sent then sends the email out further to another board member. And you're developing a position on something that you should be discussing in the open in front of the public. Or you have one person who's acting as an intermediary between various board members to establish a position when it should be happening in open for your constituents. You can get to this place of having a serial meeting without all being in the same place at the same time. So you can have meetings, you can have technically a meeting under the Brown Act without all being physically in the same place by utilization of either an intermediary or by utilization of technology. But that is prohibited. Now, meetings do not include individual contact. So running into Safeway, meeting another board member, that doesn't constitute a meeting, even if there are 3 of you and you're talking about the issues. Public conferences. Board members go to many conferences together, like CSBA. That is not considered part of violation of the Brown Act. Other local agency meetings. So I know that many school districts and their governing boards, county boards, are going and having trainings at police departments and sheriff's offices after the Connecticut incident. That does not fall within the exception, within the definition of meeting under the Brown Act. Community meetings, right? So you guys go to forums, school closings, big forum where parents are meeting with the teachers, or it may be part of some kind of school site council meetings. If you show up at those things and not comment, you're just there to observe, you can, you're not violating the Brown Act. And then social gatherings, right? So the annual Mondial holiday party that may be held out here in the lobby where apple cider is served, probably not a violation of the Brown Act. Now, there are other things that fall within the purview of the governing board, where you show up to do just a ceremonial gesture. That ceremonial gesture doesn't get you to a place of violation of the Brown Act. For example, you go ahead and have a bid process and you are suddenly selecting a contract. You have an open session vote, and then you have a agreement with the contractor that board members show up to sign. They may show up at the same time. The actual signature on that piece of paper is a ministerial act because the vote has already happened in open session. So that is not, again, a meeting. It's purely a ministerial act that's occurring. But, and you have the vote already. Now, if the vote hasn't happened and the 3 board members are meeting